it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday. Gotta get down on Friday, and that means only one thing. It's time for my Wrestlers of the Week. As always, we start off with a whole host of honorable mentions, quite a lot to get through, so I'll just rattle them off. First of all, both Cody and Chris Jericho in AEW for their wonderful promos and video packages and stuff. In fact, Jericho and all of the Inner Circle for that excellent spoof video package, which had me rolling on the floor in bloody stitches, it did. Ha ha ha. I also love the main event of NXT, The Club versus Ciampa, Riddle and Keith Lee, which was an excellent match featuring the excellent double bump where Keith Lee knocked AJ Styles into the referee and they both fell over. That had me rolling on the floor in bloody stitches. Ha 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 ha. Wrestling's funny, isn't it? Shoko Nakajima and Yuka Sakazaki, Ross's favourite member of the AEW women's division, had a really good match in DDT. Mayu Iwatani won the Stardom belt from Bea Priestley and did so after accidentally landing on her head at one point in the match, so major toughness points for Mayu Iwatani. Ishii and Bushi had really good matches in New Japan, and Masato Yoshino had a really good match in Dragon Gate, although he was unable to capture the championship. We also have some honourable mentions courtesy of Adam M, who often emails in with some recommendations, this time from ICW. So Kez Evans had a great match with Ilya Dragunov, Liam Thompson and Wolfgang had a great Good Housekeeping match with Liam retaining the Zero G championship. Stevie Boy and Joe Coffey of course had that main event of Fear and Loathing, and Noam Dar, Leighton Buzzard and Kieran Kelly all had a really fun triple threat match. Thank you very much Adam M for your recommendations. Now let's crack on with the top 10. At number 10, picking up 1 point, we have the monstrous and terrifying Daisuke Sekimoto over in Big Japan. It was his 20th anniversary in Big Japan. He's been there since 1999, so congratulations to you, big man. Don't hurt me, please. He celebrated his 20th anniversary by having a big tag team match alongside Volta, because what better way of celebrating 20 years with a promotion than by being a huge massive man, getting another huge massive man in, and then just absolutely kicking the crap out of each other across the ring from two other big massive tough bastards. How good this match was depends very much on how much you like this sort of thing, and by this sort of thing it's no surprise to know what I mean. It's four massive tough men slapping and chopping and slamming each other very, very hard. I quite enjoyed it. It's not my favourite type of wrestling, but I do enjoy a big old big boy chop fest once in a while. That sounds incredibly suspicious. So yes, 1 point to you, Daisuke Sekimoto. Congratulations on 20 years, and also I noticed that you're 38 years old, which means that basically you've spent your entire adult youth as a member of the Big Japan roster. I'm so sorry that you've wasted the prime years of your existence as part of this horrible, terrible industry. Number 9 this week, picking up 2 points, was Volta, who teamed with Sekimoto as they took on Hino and Okabayashi. Okabayashi, in fact, was Wrestler of the Week back in the spring of this year when he put in some monstrous performances in All Japan's version of the G1 Climax, the Champions Carnival. Do you remember that? Of course you bloody don't. Therefore, and maybe unsurprisingly given the credibility of everybody involved, this match absolutely stole the show at Big Japan's event. But it was Volta who seemed to get the bigger reaction, or make the bigger impression upon the match, more accurately, than Sekimoto did. Perhaps that's just because he's not as much of a regular as Sekimoto is, and was more of a special attraction, and of course a big name, being WWE's United Kingdom champion. And Okabayashi, right, after losing the match, by the way, Volta and Sekimoto won, but after losing the match, Okabayashi just leapt straight into my heart, because I've not, to be honest, right, and let's be honest, you haven't either, I've not really thought about him very much since he was Wrestler of the Week that one time, but what he did after the match really did just sort of put him in my good books. I'm a big fan of Okabayashi now. He pointed at Volta's United Kingdom Championship and clearly wants the belt, teasing a future match. And I know that he won't win, but I can't help myself but imagine a world in which the champion, WWE's champion of the United Kingdom, is just a miserable, tough member of both All Japan and Big Japan's largely tag team divisions. He's a tag team dude, and he's pretty obscure to Western audiences, and therefore I really, really want him to become the United Kingdom champion. It's not going to happen. Now let's go to Major League Wrestling, MLW, where number 8 this week is Jacob Fatu, a personal friend of mine. Don't believe me? Look at this picture, which Richard Tubman is about to throw up on screen. Thank you very much. Look at that, I met him and everything. Look how much bigger they all are than me. That's when I met the Samoan Dynasty in Las Vegas, and I was absolutely cacking my pants. Look how tall Rikishi is. You don't expect Rikishi to be as tall as he is in that picture. I'm not as short as people think. I'm about sort of 5'10", 5'11". I'm not a giant, but I'm of average height for a man. And look at the size of Rikishi. Bloody hell. But with all of that out of the way, Jacob Fatu was the one on the left who I was asking a question to, and he's a regular personal friend of mine, and also still the MLW champion. He successfully defended the belt at MLW's Saturday Night Super Fight, what a name, at that event against LA Park, Mexican legend LA Park. It was a no DQ match, which was a wise decision because LA Park is about 50 years old and can only really excel in no DQ matches these days. You didn't want to see these two guys chain wrestle each other or high fly each other to death. I was pretty glad that this had a hardcore no DQ stipulation, and it served the match well too. It was a really good one. Jacob Fatu picked up the win after about 20 dramatic, twisty-turny minutes, and I think that was a wise decision, keeping the belt on the younger man, a very charismatic individual and a great wrestler too. 3 points to you, Jacob Fatu. Personal friend of mine. My boy, your boy, everybody's collective boy, Bryan, is number 7 this week after a hell of a SmackDown main event against Adam Cole. Now I know Bryan didn't win, and I know that it doesn't even really matter because the match was still an excellent one, and I think it was probably wise for Adam Cole to pick up the victory actually, but I can't help in my heart but imagine a world where Daniel Bryan is now the NXT champion. I mean, yes, it would have, ruined months of build making Adam Cole a top star on that brand, and it would have also made NXT instantly seem like the weaker brand compared to SmackDown and Raw. But just imagine how good it would have been, Daniel Bryan as NXT champion. But anyway, we all know now that Bryan lost, but it was still a really, really good performance from one of the best to ever do it. He reminded us of that yet again on Friday night last week. And I just love him so much. But I can't tell if I love Bryan more as a heel or now again as a babyface, because he's one of those rare wrestlers who's just kind of equally good at both. And I just can't decide, which I think stands as a testament to how much he excels in either role. Number 6, now let's go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and talk about Kenta, because this week, or last weekend, he had his best match since arguably his Noah days, especially if you weren't a fan of his NXT run as Hideo Itami. To be brutally honest, right, about Kenta this year, he's kind of like if your football team signs an older but still very good player, but one who's slightly past their prime, so he's not quite been setting the world on fire as we all hoped he would. His G1 Climax performances, although he was healing it up well, weren't spectacular on the level that we maybe expect of Kenta, but he still had that touch of class about him. He just wasn't quite ticking all the boxes. Well, last weekend, Kenta did tick all the boxes in a wonderful match with Ishii for his Never Openweight Championship, which Kenta successfully retained. It was a bit of a cringy match at times because they just hit each other incredibly hard, and it was quite scary, especially given Kenta's recent injury troubles, but at the same time it was a thrilling encounter. And also, even more excitingly, they teased a match between Kenta and Shibata, who is obviously retired from wrestling, and there's been little rumblings and rumours that against all odds he could possibly step back in the ring. Now I have mixed feelings about the possibility of Kenta versus Shibata, because when he was active as a member of the roster, Shibata was my favourite guy in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but at the same time I don't want him to risk injuring himself worse, maybe doing himself serious harm if he steps back into the ring if he's not medically ready. As long as he is ready, then yes, book Kenda versus Shibata. Cancel all the other matches for all of Wrestle Kingdom over both days, January 4th and 5th, and let's just see Kenta and Shibata murder each other for just 2 straight days. I can't see any issues with that, to be honest. Number 5 is Will Ospreay, right? Yeah, I get it. But he had a really good match last weekend against Bushi. Perhaps even more importantly than the match itself, Ospreay also set up a huge clash for himself at Wrestle Kingdom against the returning Hiromu Takahashi. Now, if that match does happen at Wrestle Kingdom, as we all hope it does, and Takahashi's okay with injuries and everything, then they could well steal the entire show. And if they do, and if Ospreay puts in the better performance, I really hope he doesn't, because then he'll be leading the first week of Wrestlers of the Week in 2020, won't he? And that'll be really annoying. For both me and you, for both me and you, by the way. The match against Bushi was great from start to finish, but it especially got everybody talking because of one spot in particular, which you can see in the image there. Ospreay stealing the mist from Bushi's mouth and spitting it back into his face, which was really awesome and innovative and stuff, but also confusing for a split second because just at the very start of the spot, it just looked like Ospreay had kissed him. Just like he thought, oh, come here you gorgeous man. How can you even tell if you're attracted to him, Will? He wears a mask all the time. Number 4, let's go to Dragon Gate and talk about their reigning top dog and champion, Benkei. Fun fact, Benkei is banned from this location right now, Newcastle upon Tyne, because of course he is the man who ended Pac's spell at the top of Dragon Gate. We've actually erected a city wall, a new wall around the town with various, watchtowers and checkpoints, just in case Benkei tries to make his way to the northeast of England. I mean, he's big and scary, and we don't want any of that here because he already saw off Pac, who is the toughest of everybody in Newcastle, so what chance do we have? Who's going to stop him from coming into town and just eating all of our sausage rolls? No one. Anyway, he retained his Open the Dreamgate Championship. Still can't get over the name for that belt. It's really awesome, but also a little bit silly. But he retained that title against the smaller, nimbler, more experienced Masato Yoshino in a really good match. Some people thought it was very, very good. Some people thought it was awesome, like match of the year stuff. I leaned more towards the more reserved side. I thought it was a very, very good match, but maybe not quite breaking into that very top tier of matches in 2019, but still really good. A really good effort from Benkei, a really good retaining of his title, and a big victory on Wrestlers of the Week too. Have some bloody points, Benkei. Never set foot in Newcastle upon Tyne. Number 3, now let's go to a different Japanese pro. You might have noticed by now that there's a lot of Japanese wrestlers on this list, or wrestlers who wrestle in Japanese promotions. That's because this past weekend, I think like 5 Japanese promotions all had a big pay-per-view equivalent show in the same few days. What are you doing, lads? It's meant to be the calm period of the year until we get to Survivor Series. Oh my goodness. So yes, number 3 this week is Konosuke Takeshita, the big ace of DDT, or the closest thing that DDT has to an ace. And you know when you've just had a crap week, right? Because Takeshita is young, he's very talented, he's got a great future ahead of him, and he's already the top dog in DDT, or was until this week. He's just had an absolute nightmare. He had arguably the best match of the week, but he was cocky. He was cocky, he was arrogant, he thought he was easily going to beat his opponent, and then he bloody didn't. And now he's not the champion anymore, is he? Even worse, he not only lost his belt, but his opponent's now a double champion, because he was the champion of their hardcore division. Imagine losing to the hardcore champion when you're the main champion. Imagine The Rock losing to Steve Blackman. That's what's happened here. Alright, it's not quite what's happened here, because his opponent was like a very experienced veteran of DDT, and is now a 10-time champion of the company. But at the same time, Takeshita, mate, you've had an absolute bloody nightmare. In fact, there was one part of the match that was just so telling, where basically Takeshita was targeting his opponent's back for like 2/3 of the match. For a lot of the match, he was targeting the back, and then he locked in a Boston Crab, and everyone was like, oh god, the Boston Crab, his opponent's back's on red damage right now, and instead of keeping it locked in, he let go to shout at his opponent's stablemates around the ring. You've got no one to blame but yourself, Takeshita, you silly little boy, but I'm a really big fan of yours now, and I think you're excellent, so great job. Have 8 points. Number 2, Adam Cole, baby. Adam Cole is a fighting champion. Let's go through his week. First of all, as we've already discussed, he was part of the invading force that invaded SmackDown, and basically he defeated Daniel Bryan clean, I think, in the main event as well. That's a monumental victory, one of the biggest of Adam Cole's career, and that would already get him some points on Wrestlers of the Week, but he didn't stop there. After probably quite a nice weekend chilling or whatever, he rocked up on Monday Night Raw as part of the invading force, invading Monday Night Raw, where he took on Seth Rollins in the main event, and didn't win. He actually lost by DQ, because you're not allowed to beat Seth Rollins unless your name is Brock Lesnar or Bray Wyatt these days. And then on NXT, he didn't quite close the show in the same way as he did on Raw and SmackDown, but he did basically close the show, involving himself in the main event and super kicking AJ Styles through the gap that he leaves when he's setting up for the Styles Clash. That's pinpoint, just bang, through the legs, in the face. Absolutely unbelievable. Adam Cole is the most pinpoint super kicker in wrestling today. I can't think of anybody else. Don't make Will Ospreay jokes, because I know he kicked me. But Adam Cole does it through people's legs. When Ricochet is upside down, he just blasts him in the face. Adam Cole has accuracy for days. And then, in a booking decision that I really enjoyed, he didn't just stop there. He also attacked Tommaso Ciampa, reminding us all that despite this whole invasion sort of thing going on, NXT-centric storylines still do matter, and Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa do still hate each other, even though they're both on the yellow brand and don't wear red or blue t-shirts. So I'm pleased about that as well. And finally, number 1. So when I was talking about Takeshita, I didn't mention his opponent by name, and that's because he's number 1 this week, and his name is Hera Shima. All in caps, like Volta or Kenta or Kushida, so you know he's good. Bit of background on Hera Shima if you don't know him. First of all, first and foremost, in fact, he is a 3-time Iron Man heavy metalweight champion in DDT, which really angers me, because I've only held that belt 2 times, so what's he done to deserve it more than I have? Probably not a lot. Actually, it turns out he's kind of been there and done that in DDT. He is now a 10-time champion of the promotion, and its hardcore champion as well, as he, of course, as I've mentioned, risked it all, if all is your hardcore belt, in that match against Takeshita, and actually won, which was a pretty big shock. So after having his back just absolutely wrecked across the course of the match, getting out of Boston Crabs by either luck or by determination, at one point he did make the ropes as well, Hera Shima unveiled his special tactic right at the end, which was jump as high as you can in the air and knee your opponent in the face with preferably both knees. Not only did he do that once, he did that twice as well, and it was enough to pick up the 3 count. After the match, the roster were all like congratulating Hera Shima and stuff, because he's a legend of the promotion, and then a match was teased with Kenny Omega. I would love to see that match because, of course, Omega has a lot of history with DDT predating his New Japan run. But congratulations, Hera Shima, you are my Wrestler of the Week. Now let's take a look at the league table. Yes, Will Ospreay has extended his lead, hooray, let's all rejoice. Tomohiro Ishii could have jumped ahead of Ibushi, but only got an honourable mention this week. But Volta does jump ahead of Okada with a cheeky 2 points picked up in Okada's own backyard, by which I mean Japan. There we see Adam Cole jumping up as well, and Phoenix, who could well feature on this list next week with a match at AEW Full Gear. And as we progress further down, you'll just see sneaking in at the bottom, back where he belongs in the top 25, it's everybody's favourite, Daniel Bryan. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.